Hey guys, it's Jen. Thanks for joining me for another Pride and Grit Spouse Spotlight. I am excited today to introduce you to someone who I don't know either. So this is fun for me. I have been following her on Instagram for a while and Facebook for a while, but haven't ever really had a chance to chat. So always fun to kind of meet a new person and hear what their military life path has been and what their business is all about. So we're gonna introduce her and bring in Gems Collins. Okay, so this is Gems Collins, and I'm excited for her to talk to us a little bit today. So why don't we start by first welcoming you to Pride and Grit and to our spotlight. We're happy to
Thank you.
have
Thanks for
you.
having me.
Absolutely. Can you, I guess, give us a little bit of a highlight reel on Gems and what would be some interesting things to know about you and your path?
Yes. Well, first and foremost, I'm not American. I've lived
You're
in
kidding.
America since, yeah, exactly. What's the giveaway? Lived in America since 2017. I met my now husband in 2016 when I was living in Abu Dhabi. I was working out there. He was out there TDY. We met in an Irish bar for about 5 hours, and then he disappeared back to America. But we kept in contact. I came and visited in January of 2017, and then it was that kind of sort of make or break. We either do this or we don't.
Right.
And the only way that we were going to do it was for me to move over to America because he's a service member. So I went back to the desert, handed in my notice with my career and everything, and then so summer of 2017 kind of came over here to see how it was going to go,
Right.
kind of on a bit of a whim. And then that December we ended up getting married. So it was December 2017, and then spent the rest of 2018 in Washington at Fort Lewis. And then 2019, January, we came down here to Fort Rucker and just finished flight school. So now
Yay.
waiting to leave flight school.
So that had to be kind of that's not a small leap, right? That's not moving a state or
Mm.
two away. Like that's a pretty significant leap to not only move across the pond, but also to, leave your established career. And, I guess how hard was that decision? Or was that quite easy and that was,
It certainly wasn't easy, but I'm very much one of those people, if you kind of feel pulled to something, I'd have to go and see what's on the
mm,
other side. I had no idea how it was going to work out. I didn't know if it was the best thing to do or not, but something told me that I had to do it. And I'm just so curious and inquisitive that if something kind of has that pull, I'm like, all right, well, I've just got to go and see where this takes me. And the career side was terrifying because I very much defined myself by my career. I loved
mm-hmm.
my job. I loved what I did. I'd been working in project management for sort of 12 years, and I loved it and I love to work. So that was really difficult. But I sort of thought, oh, I'll come to America and I'll figure that out when I get here.
Right.
But then, of course, going down the military spouse route of trying to find purposeful, meaningful employment for more than a year, I didn't realize how much of a struggle that was going to be. But there's a way around everything. And I think even had I have known that before I'd made the decision, I still would have made the same decision
Mm,
because, the reward has hugely outpaid the risk and it was completely worth it. So I
right.
think sometimes you just have to take a chance on these things and you don't know how it's going to play out, but you've just got to go for it.
Yeah. It's sometimes, I mean, those leaps are hard, but often sometimes they pay off, which is in your case for sure. And do
Yeah.
I have this right? Did I remember seeing this that you were also raised around kind of military life?
Yeah, so my dad was a pilot in the RAF, so the Royal Air Force in the UK.
Okay.
I was actually born in Germany in a military hospital in Germany. So we did Germany, we did Cyprus, and then I did most of the UK, and then my brother has followed in his footsteps. So
Okay.
military life isn't new to me,
Yeah.
but being a military wife is very new and very interesting.
A little different.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, and I imagine like JBLM is probably like a great place to acclimate because it's big enough. There's a lot of people. There's a lot of obviously it's a great location regardless. But I think sometimes I don't know. I'm guessing, but I would think like going into a larger base where there's more offerings and there's just more things to do and there's a little bit more of military life to get involved in would make it a little bit of a different experience.
Yeah, and I think also the fact that JBLM isn't just the military. There's
Hmm.
so much else going on around the area that there was so much, opportunity for adventure. But like you say, having that amount of people and that amount of opportunity, the difficult part was navigating kind of the girlfriend wife. Because you can't really join FRGs, you can't really go on post unless you're with your
Right.
boyfriend at the time. So that was kind of an interesting dynamic because a lot of things, because JBLM is so big, a lot of things would happen on post because it's quite essential, it's central to all the areas around it. So that was a struggle for me to get to things, especially when my spouse was gone a lot of the time. But it was a good kind of lead into military spouse life, just because, like you say, there's so many people there, so many things going on. It was really good.
So what's been, one of the questions I always ask is kind of, for military spouses, what is the thing that you have found the hardest, and then what is the thing that you really have kind of treasured so far? And obviously your path is relatively short, but still, like, in the time that you've had, or even just, since you have that exposure from when you were younger, what are those two things for you, the hardest and maybe the best blessing of the time that you've had?
I mean, I think the hardest thing is just the amount that, I mean, in the last year, he's been here all the time, which has been wonderful, but the amount that he was gone leading up to that. We got married in December of 2017, and he was literally gone every month, back and forth, for the first 6 months. So we kind of got married and then he disappears. And I think that loneliness and that, kind of the excitement of getting married and then, so you're leaving, that was really a struggle. Then tied in with not being able to find work. And that's, that had a massive impact on my confidence. But I think, one of the best things that I found through military life is the community. The spouse community and the support you get from people is phenomenal. It's really, really good.
So you were talking before about, leaving your career and all the years that you had in professionally. So when you got, to the United States, and now you're trying to figure out, one, is this relationship going to work? But then two, what am I going to do for work? So what was that? Because I think for military spouses, I mean, you've probably heard it time and time again, right? The employment piece, the underemployment piece is one of the, it's often one of the challenges that I hear when I ask that question. So what was that like for you, with kind of a little bit more at risk? And how did you kind of take that and turn it into something that's now, working for you?
So I tried everything finding jobs. There are some really good organizations to help military people find work. So in Tacoma specifically, there was one called Work of Honor. I know there's Hire Our Heroes. There's so many platforms to help military spouses find work, and they do a really great job. For me, though, it was, I guess, ingraining into American culture of working and finding the job that fit with my skill set and everything I'd done in the past. It was almost like starting from scratch.
Sure.
And then, finding a job in Washington and then leaving 3 months later and coming to Fort Rucker, where there's not a lot going on in Alabama at all. So again, I tried a couple of remote positions, but it wasn't anything that ever just like set my soul on fire. And I was like, yes, this is what I'm here to do. So I thought, my business kind of started in a different direction than it is now. And at the time I thought, if I'm in this situation, there must be other people going through the same thing. Absolutely. How can I help them? And for me, that was the clear path for me was entrepreneurship. It was starting a business. And so I thought I can help other people to do the same thing. So I created a program specifically to help military spouses to start their own businesses. But I found that through doing that, people came to me more for the business coaching and the support around creating their own online courses, because I was delivering the program through an online course. People were coming to me for more guidance and help around doing that. So I kind of pivoted my business towards helping people to develop their own online courses, and then I do some business coaching on the side. So it kind of had a natural pivot and actually happened just probably about a month or two before everything that's happening now happened. So it was kind of divine intervention. It was good timing. But yeah, it was interesting how that whole kind of pathway planned out anyway.
So I guess talk us through a little bit what that looks like. If someone is, has an idea, what is it that they would come to someone, like you with, and what is it you would help them do?
Yeah, so I offer two ways of doing it. So there's the Done For You and the Done With You program. So Done For You is somebody who has, they have a really great idea for an online course. They just don't either have the time or the know-how or the time to get the know-how in order to do it themselves. So they would just create the content. So that's, videos and workbooks and things. They would send that all to me, and then I create the course for them, which includes building out the platform, all of the branding, the logo, and then all of the marketing strategy that goes with it, because you've got to think about what your social media looks like, your email campaigns, that kind of thing. So I build out that for them.
Oh, all of it. Wow, that's a lot.
Yes. Yeah. So, and then I send that back to them, and it's like, you're on your own from this point out. You just got to hit go. Or I do a Done With You program, which is more, I create a project framework for them. which includes what they need to do, by when, what the things that they need to consider, and then again working with them to create their marketing strategy around that. But it's a lot more kind of hands off from my point of view, but more overall guidance and things that they need to consider. I'll do some research around what the best platform is for them to use, because there's so many different ones out there.
Yeah.
Reviewing the content, going through what the course looks like to make sure that it flows, because sometimes when you're delivering information to people, because you know it so well, you kind of gloss over things really quickly, when somebody who doesn't know what you're talking about kind of needs it broken down a bit. So I come at it from a user point of view as well, just to give them that kind of second glance, but they do most of the work. It's just with guidance from me to make sure they get it. A lot of people just need the kind of project management framework, the budget, and kind of what that timeline looks like.
And so for the let's say it was a course, for the course content, are they providing you that sort of completed, and then in either you're working with them or you're just putting it into the system, or do you actually do some of the content creation as well from the vision?
I mean, I wouldn't get in front of the camera and create it for them in that sense, unless they really wanted me to, because it's sort of their project. But when it comes out to, building what the overall objectives of the course are, and therefore what you need to be including in each module, I'll help them to think through from an end user point of view. Exactly. What do you need to gain from each module? What's the end state of your user at each point? And I think it helps to have the end user answering those questions rather than you kind of telling them what you think they need to know. So it just helps, again, to have those. A lot of time it's discussion about, okay, I hadn't actually thought about it from that point of view, or what order should I be doing this in, or what needs to come first, and even as simple as, okay, well, what is a video, what's an audio, what's a workbook, making sure that the tool that you're using helps the end user to get the most out of it, and is something that they can take away or something that they can refer back to.
Okay. Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, I was doing an interview recently with someone who has a digital course, and I'm thinking like, wow, this, if you have this idea, but for a lot of people, the fear comes in with the technology, or just with understanding, to your point, like all the offerings, and trying to figure out, how do you even know what the best offering is to be able to bring a partner in to be able to kind of cut through that. I can imagine it's quite helpful.
Yeah, it definitely makes a difference for sure.
So from like the entrepreneurial side of it, you mentioned, you'd been in your professional, your professional life before you came to the US was quite different, and then you're sort of shifting into this entrepreneurial piece. Was this a natural fit for you, or was this more, I mean, obviously a necessity you've kind of already established, but is this something had you ever thought, oh, well, maybe someday I would, do my own kind of independent project management, and so this was just a good time, or was it really kind of a left field choice for you?
No, I think I'd always wanted to own my own consultancy. I actually ended up, when I was over in 2017, I finished my master's, because I was taking a master's in order to get to get more credibility as a consultant. So that was always something that I had wanted to do. But I think coming over into this lifestyle, seeing, where the need is, how I can help people, really just help kind of frame exactly what it is that I wanted to do. And it was a really good way to marry up my experience professionally, as well as my experience as a spouse, what I'd learned along the way, and then, my experiences from a mindset growth point of view as well. So kind of combining that all into one nice little bubble. So yeah, it was something that I'd always wanted to do, but I think definitely was the kick that I needed to be like, okay, now I just need to get on and do it.
I feel like sometimes that's what we need, right? Like we may have this idea, but we just need that thing that makes us go, all right, fine. Like this is going to be the time where I finally take that leap, and then it, it works out and it's great. But sometimes that fear is just it's a kicker.
Yeah, and fear is nothing at the end of the day. That's what's crazy. It's something that we've all just created in our heads and have decided to believe. So
I know, because like, what's the worst that happens, right? Like there is.
Yeah, you learn from it.
Right. No, absolutely. So if folks were interested in and now let me actually take a step back. Are there certain types of content that you focus on, or is it really kind of independent for industry, or?
No, it's really, I generally work with solo entrepreneurs, so people who own their own businesses on their own or sort of in a partnership. I'm working towards some bigger corporations, but the people that I care about most are kind of the small business people. So, I've worked with an accounting agency, a design agency, a life coach, somebody who deals with moving and storage and organization, that kind of thing. So the industry is irrelevant. It's normally the the style of business and really the person. As long as there's a really good relationship with the client, then everybody's going to get the best out of it. So yeah, generally single, solo entrepreneurs, small business owners.
Okay. All right. No, that works. So if folks were interested, if they had an idea and they wanted to, kind of give it life, how could they work with you to do that?
The easiest thing would just be to email me. So drop me an email at gems@gemscollins.com. But I'm basically Gems Collins on all social media. So if you go on LinkedIn, Instagram, Facebook, you'll find me under Gems Collins. And then my website is gemscollins.com. So fairly simple.
Could not be easier.
Exactly. I feel like if you find something that works, just stick with it.
Yeah.
So yeah, and if anybody is interested, then I have a complimentary initial consultation anyway. So if anybody wanted to just hop on the phone, then I would be more than happy to do that.
Awesome. And if someone like going back to the entrepreneurial piece, I was just thinking, I've asked this before, but I'm curious your thought. Like, if someone was kind of in that moment of fear, what would be your kind of best piece of advice for someone a little bit afraid to take that leap?
I think you really just have to think not what could go wrong, but what could go right. And really this idea that failure is a bad thing is completely wrong, because the only thing that happens when you fail is that you learn, and then you're able to take what you've learned into the next version of what you do. So instead of worrying about what's going to go wrong, think about what could go right, and then focus on that and work towards that, and you'll find that everything that can go right will go right. And yes, you'll make mistakes, but that's not a bad thing at all. That's a good thing. If you don't make any mistakes, you're not trying hard enough.
Right. No, I love it. Anything else you want us to know before we hop off?
No, I think just thank you for having me. I think you're doing, I appreciate the opportunity to talk to you, and I think you're doing a fabulous thing spotlighting other business owners in the community. And thank you everybody for, support. I think there are probably some people listening to this who I've engaged with on social media, and the amount of support that I get through people is wonderful. So just thank you very much.
Absolutely. Well, we're happy to have you. And like I said, it's always great to kind of finally meet, face to face, if you will, and be able to put a face with the name in person. So I definitely appreciate you being here today.
Thanks.
Thank you so much. All right, guys, that's going to do it for our spotlight for this week. I hope you enjoyed that. So if you have a course that you are working toward, Gems is definitely someone you can engage with to try to help partner up and move that forward. And we will catch you on the next spotlight. Catch us every Wednesday. Go ahead and like our Facebook page, and you'll be notified when these videos are posted. So hope you guys have a great week. Talk to you soon.